Hey guys, back with another tutorial today, and we are going to be talking about export settings, and specifically we're going to be talking about exporting to the web. So a lot of people upload videos to YouTube and Vimeo, and I'm going to show you today what are the best settings to export out of Premiere to YouTube. So this is a video clip that I did with my GoPro on one of my holidays, and you can check out the link for this video in the description down below, right below that like button, and check it out. So we are going to be exporting this video. Firstly, you're going to come up to File, go down to Export, and go to Media. Now I need to make sure that this box here has the yellow line around it, which means it's highlighted, because if you have, let's say, this box over here highlighted, you come down to Export, Media, it'll be blanked out. That could leave you confused. So just make sure that is highlighted. You also could hit Control M on your keyboard to bring up this same window as long as your timeline is selected. So we are going to come into our export settings. Now I'm going to show you two different ways to export your video for YouTube or Vimeo. The first way is sort of the quick and easy. It requires less steps. And the next one is going to take off where the other one left off and go a little bit further and give you a little more detail in your videos, which in turn will give it a little more file size and also a little more render time. But if you're looking for high quality, stick around for that one. So the first thing that I do when I'm trying to export a video is make sure that I have my selection window instead of source to output. This is going to make sure that your window here, your preview of your video, is showing you exactly what is going to be exported. Next is coming down here. This is sort of a preview of your timeline without any of the edits. It's purely just a linear scale. And you could scrub through the video here, although it does take some time to render because it's trying to do it on the fly here. And make sure that there's no mistakes. The last thing you want to do is export a video and have, a typo or a miscut or, some sort of audio bump. So just make sure everything is fine there. Now, you have a couple different options for deciding which part of your video gets exported. Most of the time, I just click entire sequence, because I've made my video and I know I want the entire thing. Adobe is going to go in and look to see that this is the start of your video and this is the end, because there is no more clips after that. Now if you wanted to get precise, you would use in and out points, and that's where you could start dragging these and say I want to start here, and the preview will reflect where you're starting that in point, and same with the out points. But for this one we're just going to use the entire clip. Now up here are your export settings. You could use the checkbox match sequence settings, which is going to give you some sort of preset and match it to what it thinks it should be. I don't like trusting it because, as you can see here, my source says it's 2704 by 1440 and the output is 1920 by 1022. So we are not going to be using that. So unclick that. For formatting, for YouTube and Vimeo, I always use H.264. This is a codec that provides the most amount of quality for the least amount of compression. It's one that YouTube highly recommends on their YouTube page under export settings, and there is a new codec, H.265, which will offer even more compression versus quality standards. So I always use that one. Now, the next thing that you'll come and do is come into custom, or the presets here, which right now it's set for custom, and you're going to come down and you're going to try and find the preset that matches your source. Now this is a bit interesting for mine because I shot it with the GoPro, which shoots in 2.7K, that's the 2700 here. It's not going to have a preset down here, but we are exporting for YouTube, which means most of the people, if not all of them, are going to be viewing it on a 1080p monitor. So I'm going to be exporting it in 1080p, and I'm going to show you how to get around some of the things that are going to happen in our preview window here. So normally you'd be coming in with 1080p footage, you would find 1080p HD, you would also want to match your frame rate. I'm using 23.976. There it is. You could use 24, it's the same thing if they have it in the list. So I'm going to select that. Now, if you looked over here, you'll see that we now have bars across the top of our video and bottom. That is because 1920 by 1080 is a tiny bit of a different aspect ratio compared to the 2704 by 1440. It's a bit of a weird, I'm not sure how that happened, but that's easily fixed. We can come up here to source scaling and we can go scale to fit. Now, because the source file was a much larger resolution than the file that we are exporting, I have no problem using this function. It's not going to degrade the quality. It's not going to zoom in and lose any pixels. We're purely just scaling up the footage by a bit. And as you saw, those bars were not very big. So we can keep in mind that we're not going to be degrading the image. If you were doing that for whatever reason, you had 1080p footage and you were scaling it up and you had bars, you might want to worry that you were losing a little bit of quality. So now we have those two done. We have our output matched up. We can now come in here. This is just filing. We're going to open up our files and tell you where we're going to save it. Sure, that's fine. I'm not actually going to save it because I'm not going to be exporting this. So that is where I would leave it off, and except for one other thing, and that is you're going to come down and click Use Maximum Render Quality. So that's going to make sure that this render is using the maximum render quality. As you'll see, the size is fairly big, but that's going to ensure that when you're uploading it to YouTube, it doesn't have any additional compression before YouTube is going to use its algorithm to compress your video. So if you were doing a quick upload like this tutorial, I would use something like this because it's quick. It's not going to make the file size too big, although this one has some fairly big resolution pictures and videos in it, so the file size is a little bigger. But for something like this tutorial, this is a nice, fast, high quality way to push out a video. Now, next are some settings down in this video player setting box here. So you just want to double check that your pixels, height and width, are the ones that match the output. Same with your frame rate. Square pixels, that's what it should be. NTSC, we are in North America, so that's what we use. If you were anywhere else, like it says Japan, Europe, Asia, you would use PAL. Now, the profiles here, main, you could switch it to high. I normally keep it on main. That'll just keep the quality fairly high, but not too high to keep the render times. Render at maximum depth, I usually check that off. If I'm going to be doing, this is again for a high quality render out of After Effects. The next one you want to look at is Vbr To Pass. So essentially when it's rendering out this video, it's going to take 2 passes at every frame, or not every frame, but the video, to make sure that it's not miscalculating any pixel. It's just going to, it's more like an air check on the side of rendering, and it's going to give you a better image overall. And as you see, our file size has not gone up too much, so these aren't increasing the render time by astronomical amounts. The one that will, though, is this one here, this slider. So this is talking about bitrate. This is purely a quality rating of the video. So if you go on YouTube's export page, you're going to see that they have recommended bit rates for every size of video and codec. I think 720p video was somewhere around 8, so you would slide this down to 8, right around there, whatever it is. But for 1080p, they were up in the 20s, I believe. You can check out the site. I'll link that below in the description. I usually keep mine around 30. And basically, what this is doing is it's setting the amount of information that this file will be transferring, and that is equivalent to the quality. I usually keep mine at about 30, which YouTube will then cut it down when they're doing their compression, but at least I'm coming from higher and cutting lower. You don't want to be going low and then getting cut again, because then you'll go to watch your video and the quality will just not be what you saw when you were editing. Okay, and the last one, advanced settings here, is keyframe distance, and you want to check this and set it to 1. I'm not going to go into detail in explaining this one. I don't even fully understand it on a technical level myself, but somebody else explained it to me and said that 1 is the best thing to use if you're doing a high quality render. This would be something if you're doing like a short film or something you want to put to YouTube and keep that quality. Basically, the first frame in every sort of set of frames that is rendered is the best quality, and from there the quality kind of degrades a little bit. So using the first frame in every render will give you the best quality render, because that's what the render is basing it off of. and it doesn't increase the file size or render time very much. It's very sort of hidden feature. So we are done. We are now ready to export. If you were just doing a quick video, you could have stopped before we got to this box here and went through and exported, and now we can export. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I have lots more stuff coming down and tutorials, and I think I'm going to have a review guide with a new computer that I am getting. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel and don't be afraid to hit that like button. Thanks.